We've learned about slices both for Python lists and for Python strings. So you will remember that the slice a square brackets x colon y consists of the elements of a at positions x, x plus 1, and so on up to position y minus 1. That's the same both for strings and for lists. So to take an example here, we have my list being the list 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in which case my list 2 colon 4 would be the list consisting of the elements of my list at positions 2 and 3. So in this case, it would be the actual numbers 2 and 3 which are in this slice. Similarly, if we take a string, like my string here, which is defined to be the string A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, then my string 3 colon 6 would consist of the characters of my string at indices 3, 4, and 5. So if we count this 0, 1, 2, 3, character 3 is D, character E, character 4 is E, and character 5 is F. So this my string slice between 3 and 6 will give us the string D, E, F. Now slices can be a little bit tricky to deal with, so we're going to spend this video doing an example of working with slices. Here's the example we're going to look at. I've taken this problem from the famous website Project Euler, which is a very, very good place to go and get practice programming problems which are related to mathematics. And one of their problems is a bit like this. We're going to look at how to find the largest sum of 10 consecutive digits of this enormous number. So some enormous number which is actually too big to even to fit on this screen. And the way I've got this number into Python is that I've typed it in as a string. Well, actually, of course, I didn't type it. I copied it and pasted it. Anyway, at the bottom here, we have the number itself entered as a string, so not as an integer. And I'm going to run this, and now this number will be available as the variable number in the form of a string. Okay, so it looks like we've got quite a big problem on our hands, like the largest sum of 10 consecutive digits of this enormous number. So it seems like there are quite a lot of things which we're going to have to do in order to solve this problem. And usually when you have anything bigger than anything which is not just a very simple programming problem, the right thing to do is to try and split it up into pieces and solve it one piece at a time, often by writing a function which will solve one piece of your problem. So one of the things we'll have to do when we're looking at finding the sum of 10 consecutive digits from that number is to find out the sum of a string consisting of digits. So if given a string like consisting of 0, 1, 2, for example, to find the sum of the digits in that string. So that's a small part of this problem, but we can solve it separately and we can test our solution separately. So it's a good idea to start by doing some simple problem like this, which will make up part of the solution to the big problem. So I'm going to define a function called string sum. And string sum is going to take as its input a string of digits, and its output will be the sum of those digits. So how should we do this? Well, let's first of all create a variable which is going to hold the sum of those digits. So output is going to be a variable which is going to be the thing that we return, and initially it'll be 0. Okay, so what do we want to do now? We want to go through each of the things in this string, each of the characters in this string, convert that character into an integer, and then add it to the output. So we'll do for s in string. And what that will do, s will take on each of the characters in the string in turn. So if the string was the string 0, 1, 2, then s will be 0, and then s will be 1, and then s will be 2. So what should we do? All we need to do is increase output by the value of the character s. So output should be changed to output plus the value of the character s, which we can get with just int. So remember, int converts a string or a character into an integer. All right, so that's all we need to do, and then at the end we should just return output. Right, that's our function written. So, of course, what we need to do is test this. Does it work or does it not work? We better find out whether it works. So let's try calling this function on some strings which are short enough that we can see what the correct answer is. So let's try 1, 2, 3. The answer here should be 1 plus 2 plus 3, which is 6. Let's see if it actually works. Okay, good. It seems like it worked there. We'll try some more. So let's try 9, 9, 9, 9, something a bit bigger. 5 nines, that's 45. Okay, looks good. Let's try a one-digit string to see if it works there. Okay, that seems to be correct as well. Let's try 100. Yeah, okay, it seems like it's looking good. Finally, let's try a special case. Let's try the empty string with nothing in it. What are we going to get here? Okay, good. We still get the correct answer, which is 0. So it really looks as if my function is working. We've written a function then which will take a string consisting of digits and output the sum of those digits. So we've solved part of our problem, but the difficult part is still to come. So what we now need to do is write a function which is going to use the function which we've just defined to solve the whole problem. But actually we're going to generalize this a little bit. So rather than look at the largest sum of 10 consecutive digits, I'd like to look at the largest sum of k consecutive digits. And actually, in some sense, this is going to be easier because if I use a k in place of the 10 which I'm actually interested in, it's going to be a bit clearer in my code which number means the length of the digits the number of digits which I'm adding together. Otherwise, 10 could mean something else. So it's going to be actually kind of helpful and make things easier to do a slightly more general problem. Anyway, let's think how we're going to do this. So what we need to do is look at our number represented by the string and look at all of the possible consecutive slices of length k in that number. And the question is, which slices of string do we need to look at? So obviously the first one is going to be the slice of string from 0 up to k. That's the slice of the first k digits inside string. So that's the first one. What's the last one? So the last slice we should look at, well, that should be string from. It's going to use the last character in string. So it should go up to len st. ring, like this. So where should it start? Well, if it's going to have length k, it should start at len string minus k, like this. So that's the correct last slice. Okay, so what we can do is we can use a for loop, which is going to tell us where the slice should start. And then the last thing in that for loop, so the last number produced by that for loop, should be len string minus k. So let's begin by making a variable to hold this maximum sum. So max sum is going to be equal to -1 to begin with. So just something which is obviously too small. And then we need a for loop, and the for loop is going to use a loop variable I, which tells us where the slice we're thinking about starts. So that should be in a range. Now, what should the range be? So we know that the first slice, the first start will be 0, so we could begin with 0. And we know that the last one should be the length of the string minus k. Now remember, range AB goes up to b minus 1. So if we want the last value of I to be len string minus k, then we should have range 0 up to len string minus k plus 1, because, as I just said, range AB goes up to b minus 1. Okay, and actually you'll notice we didn't really need the 0 here, so if you just do range n, then that goes from 0 up to n minus 1. So I could get rid of that 0 just to make things a bit clearer. So what should we do? Well, we should get the sum of our slice going from I up to I plus k, and we should see whether or not that was bigger than the maximum slice we've seen so far. So let's say if the string sum of the slice of our string from I up to I plus k was greater than the maximum sum that we've seen so far, then we'll just change max sum to string sum of string I up to I plus k. Okay, so we're just updating our maximum sum. If the sum of the current slice is bigger, then we're replacing the maximum sum with the sum of the current slice. Okay, that's all I need to do. So that's going to check all of the slices and update the maximum sum, and then finally we should return the max sum. Okay, so that looks that looks okay. It looks as if it might work. Let's run it so the function is defined, and let's try to test it. So we'll try. Well, if I just call it straight away on this enormous number which we defined before, I don't really have any idea what the correct answer is. So instead, why don't we check this on some strings of digits which are small enough so that we can see what the correct answer is. So we'll try a small string of digits and a small value of k where we can actually see what the correct answer really is. So we'll do max slice sum like this, between the string 1, 2, 3, and we'll look at the sum of the biggest slice of length 1. Okay, so what should the answer be? The answer should be 3, because this is just looking at slices of length 1. So we'll try it. Okay, good. We did get the answer 3. All right, what about, let's be a bit more ambitious. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll look at slices of length 2. So this time the biggest slice is obviously 4 plus 5. And actually this is a particularly good test because the maximum slice appears right at the end. So it's a good test of whether our slice, whether the for loop really did check all of the possible slices, because it's easy to make a mistake and miss off the last one. So hopefully the answer here should be 9, which is 4 plus 5. Okay, good. It's looking good. Let's try another one where the maximum appears at the start. So I'm going to put a minus. I'm going to put a 9 at the start there. So the correct answer this time should be 10 appearing at the start. Again, looking good. Okay, so I'm pretty confident that my max slice sum function is actually working. So that said, let's try max slice sum. Let's solve the original problem, which is max slice sum of number, which was that enormous number as a string, and 10 because we wanted the biggest 10 consecutive digits. We'll try it. Let's see what we get. 77. Okay, well, I don't know if that is the correct answer or not, but I can at least say that it's plausible. Right? I mean, if you have a sum of 10 consecutive digits, like if we got the answer 500 here, that couldn't possibly be correct, because if you're going to add together 10 consecutive digits, the biggest thing you could possibly get is 10 consecutive 9s, which is 90. So this is a number which is between 0 and 90. It's at least a plausible answer, and it's nearer to 90 than it is to 0. So again, it seems like this is a plausible answer. This looks as if it's correct. And it's always useful to think about this. When you've written a program, it's quite difficult to know whether your answer is exactly correct. So what you need to do is two things. First of all, test it on things where you know the answer, and secondly, ask yourself the question, is this at least plausible? In our case, we tested it on some small cases where we knew the answer and it worked every time, and we've got an answer which is at least plausible as a correct answer to this problem.